she should.
Okay, Joe.
Are we all right, Joe?
Yes, thank you.
Well, good afternoon again, everyone. This is almost my last action as chair of your SACRE, as I have indicated that I don't wish to stand for re-election in a short while, and there's somebody in the wings who is prepared to be nominated. Before we begin the formal meeting, I'd like to spend a moment remembering Judy Wyman, who sadly passed away recently, and the notice that was issued about her passing. I'd like to read parts to you in memory of Judy, who was a very diligent member of SACRE and kept us on our toes, and was a very valued member, as she was of so many other activities and organisations. Many colleagues will have known Judy Wyman, who was head teacher at Blythebridge High School 1992 to 2005, and following her retirement from headship, worked tirelessly in the interests of education in Staffordshire and beyond in a huge variety of roles. These included ASCL branch secretary, sitting on a large number of LA committees and other groups, and supporting individual schools, academies and trusts as a governor or trustee. Judy had to step down on health grounds in 2023 and sadly passed away on 6th of October in Catherine House Hospice. In the words of a colleague, she gave so much to Staffordshire and will be remembered as someone who gave her all to her chosen profession. A number of people have asked if there is to be a celebration of her life and if they can make donations in her memory. Donations to Catherine House can be made at judy-wyman.muchloved.com/, where messages can be left, and perhaps this can be included on the minutes. Judy was adamant that she did not want a fuss. So there will simply be a low-key gathering in Stafford for anyone who would like to share memories. This will take place in the Oak Room in County Buildings, following the meeting of Schools Forum, of which Judy was a member, on Thursday the 18th of November, 4 p.m. for 4:15 till around 5 p.m. Light refreshments will be available. If possible, please let steve.barr@ascl.org.uk know in advance if you hope to attend. Well, I haven't done that.
Tomorrow, isn't it?
That's tomorrow,
It's tomorrow.
and I will be attending.
The 18th is a
No.
week tomorrow.
It's a week tomorrow, is it?
I think it's the 13th.
It's the 13th.
Yeah,
Did I
it's
say?
just very small.
I mean,
It's
it is
13th.
tomorrow.
It is tomorrow.
That's me reading from the screen here with a bit of light on it. Tomorrow it is 4:15 here in the Oak Room.
And you will be attending.
I will be attending, God willing. Yeah. May I suggest we keep 30 seconds silence in memory of Judy before we proceed? Thank you. I step down now, and members of the local authority take over the meeting until a new chair has been elected.
Thank you very much. So it's open to the room now. We are item number 2 of the agenda, appointment of chair and vice chair. So can anyone here share interest if they'd like to become the chair of the SACRE committee? Hifsa, thank you. Anybody else? Okay. And can I ask that that is seconded by anybody in the room there?
I propose Hifsa as chair.
Thank you very much. And also we're here to appoint a vice chair for the committee. Is there anyone here that's interested in vice chairing? Just to let you know, it's predominantly to support the work of the chair. Right, okay. What I will do, because there are also some members not here today, that we will bring it back to the next meeting to officially appoint, if everyone's happy with that. Thank you, Neil. So that's the appointment of Hifsa, if you'd like to take the chair's chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone. And a very special thank you to Michael. Michael isn't going anywhere. He will be remaining on SACRE. And I am very aware of the fact I have got some very, very big shoes to fill.
Not that big.
Thank you, everyone. Okay, Joe, apologies.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I've received the following apologies. Councillor Conor Wildman, Councillor Barry Martin, Sam Phillips, Elisa Gretton, Laura Nicholson-Ward, Vicky Wyman and Zoe Callahan. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. And declaration of interests and the other businesses also with your name on it.
Sorry, that was item number 4, update on membership. So yes, thank you very much, Chair. So since the last meeting, which was on the 25th of June, we have got a couple of new members and one leaver. So firstly, I'd like to welcome Andrew, who is with us today. Welcome, Anne. Anne is a member of the Staffordshire NEU committee. And has joined us under the committee number C, which is the Teachers Association. And we've also have Jennifer Arnott, which I don't believe is here today, unfortunately, but Jennifer has joined us from St Edward's Church of England School in Leek under the same committee, Teachers Association. It's sad to say we have had one leaver. Sam Kerwin from St Dominic's Grammar School in Brood has left us just after the last meeting, simply due to increasing workload. So we wish her all the best, and we have already written to Sam to thank her for all her work that she's contributed to. In terms of vacancies, we do still have 11 vacancies across all of the nominations for SACRE, so they are advertised. I am continuing to chase supporting bodies to get that interest. I don't know if the summer holidays may have been a factor as well, but responses have been on the low side, so I'll continue to chase those and actively do that. So that's the update for the membership. Thank you.
Thanks, Joe. Can I just ask, where are they advertised?
Predominantly on our website, Staffordshire County Council, there is a SACRE page that they're on there, which, given the meeting, is hopefully that's the best. But any suggestions of anywhere else, I don't know if Entrust's website as well, we could share that there. But otherwise, I actively contact the contacts that I've got there.
When I write for the Governor Information Pack, which I will be doing, and it'll be published in January, I always put a little bit about SACRE, so I can say we have some vacancies. So if you could just let me know the categories, because I don't want to raise the hopes of somebody and they don't fit into a category, if that makes any sense. So if you could do that, that would be lovely.
If I can just make a comment, you can only become a member of SACRE by representing a recognised body that is already a constituent member of SACRE. So it has to come through the stakeholders that are already established. Okay, but volunteers are always welcome.
Thank you, Michael, and Mary and Joe for that. I think it's worth knowing.
Can I just check, is it Jennifer? Welcome, Jennifer. This is our other new member. Jennifer Arnott has arrived. Welcome. Sorry. That's fine. Don't worry. Thank you.
Okay, item number 5 is declaration of interests and any other business. I think I should probably declare my own first. The first is that you may be aware that through the school's work that I do for SACRE, I do get paid for that. So I would like that minuted at all future minutes, please. And also, just to let you all aware, some of you may be aware, that I'm also a Deputy Lieutenant of Staffordshire as well. Are there any other declarations of interest or any other business? Okay. In that case, we will move on to minutes of the previous meeting that was held on the 25th of June and matters arising. You should all have sight of the minutes there. If we go through them page by page for any matters arising or any corrections or anything on there that you see that might need changing, page 1, although it says page 5 at the bottom, page 2, page 3, page 4, and page 5. Okay, if there's no other points to be raised on there, no matters arising, are we okay to accept that? Aye. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. I will sign those minutes as well. Okay, next item on the agenda is the SACRE terms of reference, which you will all have received as part of the pack. I'm going to pass on to Jo for this one.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, it's just to make members aware that back in June, the terms of reference were updated just because they hadn't been for a number of years, and there was a couple of minor amendments made. So they are in the pack for reading and checking, and I've brought them back for members to approve that you're happy with them. Namely, the main change is that there was a reference to the DCSF, which is the Department for Children, Schools and Families, which of course no longer exists, and that's been changed to Department for Education. Aside from that, it's been updated onto our updated logos, and that's about it. The rest of it was generally correct. So it's just for members to approve they're happy with that to be signed off. Thank you.
Any questions, points from the members? Michael?
If there's nothing... Sorry, Chair, if there's nothing else, it occurred to me that it might not be a bad idea to revisit our code of conduct as well.
Okay, that's a good point, Michael. Maybe we can look at that at our next meeting, which is probably, we'll sort the date out later on. Thank you, Michael. Anything else from anybody? Okay, thank you very much for that, Jo. Do an update on key issues, and I'm going to hand over to Mary for this one.
Well, as you can see, I've written as much as I can about all the key issues that have been happening over the past few months since the last meeting, and these start on page 22 of your pack. First of all, the Culham Legacy Project. This is where we were very successful in our SACRE to be awarded £6,500 to talk to all sorts of people who are interested in equality, equity, diversity and inclusion. So this included free workshops for governors, trustees, members and school staff. So that has actually been completed now. But what has happened, I've called it now the Legacy Project, because schools are requesting this information because not everybody managed to get in on the workshops initially. So we have money within the SACRE budget which is used for workshops for school. So some of that money is now being used to promote EDI within governing boards, within schools, within school staff. And we are very pleased to say that this is being well received by schools, especially since the new curriculum and assessment results are coming out about the review, and within that there's an awful lot of work about inclusion, a lot being said about diversity, and under the personal development of pupils section, it actually indicates that all pupils should understand that we live in a culturally diverse society and that they must, by law, know about these things. And so I've noticed since that was actually advertised, if you like, by the government, that I'm getting quite a few calls. Now, we have actually run out of some of the money for that at the present moment, so we're booking in now for the summer term, would you believe it, because we're well booked up for the spring term. So that's good news, isn't it? And some schools have said, well, we know SACRE can't pay, but Mary, we are willing to pay you, because I run my own company, we're willing to pay you to do this work for us. So that's even better, because that saves SACRE a lot of money, doesn't it? So that's good news. Then there has been quite a few opportunities for networking with regard to partners with religious education. So I have been advising and networking with others concerning that. And I know in the last meeting, somebody asked me, would it be possible for us to network with the John Taylor Mat? Because if you remember, their RE results are quite exceptional. So I have approached them, and I have 2 meetings in January with the John Taylor Mat, 2 of the schools within that mat, just to see how they approach the teaching of religious education. So that will enhance the networking, and it will also address the challenges that have come from you colleagues, in the last meeting. So I want you to know that I have done something about that. I have mentioned under E here, the curriculum and assessment review. That is very much all very new. I have a meeting on Thursday about that. When I wrote this, we didn't know what the outcome was going to be, but basically in a nutshell, and I will be having more training on this, so I will talk to you a little bit more in February. What it is saying is they're thinking that RE should be part of the national curriculum. And you might think, well, isn't it? Well, actually, RE is not part of the national curriculum. It's part of the basic curriculum. And the RE curriculum is devised by yourselves as part of the Staffordshire agreed syllabus. So the implications for this might be, if it goes forward, is that this booklet no longer becomes the syllabus for the schools, but we're talking 2027, 28. We're talking future, and that there will be a national RE syllabus, just as there's a history syllabus and a geography syllabus. But we're still waiting to hear a little bit about that. And then there is also the proposition that sixth formers do not then by law have to learn about religious education, because currently sixth formers within schools have to learn about RE. It is part of their entitlement and it is the law. Not a lot of schools know that, so my work is to talk to them, to write to them and encourage them. But it might be that under the new assessment review that this actually becomes law, that they do not have to engage with RE, because the thinking is that if they have had RE from the age of 3 up to the beginning of sixth form, they should be very knowledgeable, because it will be the law. Now, it is currently the law, but not, as I've said, not everybody does it. So we'll see how that goes. So that's the curriculum assessment and review, and I start my training for that, as I said, on Thursday. Then there are national outcomes from something called the Workforce Data Report. And this is a report that high schools and middle schools have to give to the government regarding the amount of hours they teach within their schools on religious education and history and geography, all of the curriculum matters. And we have the national outcome here for you to read on page 23. And it says there's a decrease in the number of schools that report offering 0 hours for RE, because if you think about it, last year when we looked at this in Staffordshire, there were a number of schools saying they don't teach RE whatsoever, and it's 0 hours recorded. So throughout the country, there has been a decrease in that, which if you look at it in a more positive way, there's been an increase in the amount of RE being taught in schools, which is a very positive aspect. So here I have the national outcomes of workforce data. And then just on my phone, 2 minutes ago, I saw that the Staffordshire workforce data report has just been published, but I have not had time to look at it. So in the next meeting, we will be able to see the amount of hours being taught in Staffordshire with regard to RE throughout those schools and whether we have any 0-hour schools. So that's going to be an item on the next agenda. Then, for you to know, it's Interfaith Week this week. And a lot of schools have asked for information and resources, so I have sent those to those schools. There's also an interfaith poetry competition, and I've sent that to a couple of schools as well that have shown great interest, so we'll see how that pans out. And HIFSA is going into schools in this interfaith period as well to carry out her workshops, so we're trying our best to do what we can there. Inspection data. Last time in the meeting, we were challenged, weren't we, about what do we know about inspection data with regard to the schools in Staffordshire and whether schools are teaching RE or what are they doing and so on. So I have researched this, and there was a document called Flourishing Schools, and it's basically about Anglican and Methodist schools to begin with, and it indicates within the Diocese of Lichfield the total number of inspections that have been undertaken and whether the judgments for those schools are judgments that state those schools are effective in the teaching of religious education. So I have put that data in for you to have a look at, and the recommendations as well. Then I also did research on schools within Staffordshire with regard to Ofsted, and I could only find two schools where RE is mentioned, and it states that the children are not receiving the diet they should. So this is what has happened. I had the second meeting with those schools last night. HIFSA has already had one meeting, and she has another meeting next week as well at Hanbury.
That's tomorrow.
That's tomorrow, next week, tomorrow. So we are supporting those schools, SACRE is supporting those schools where Ofsted has indicated there needs a further need, if you like. So I hope I've addressed the challenge there. So we have any questions?
Thank you. Sorry, can I just raise that in a lot of schools, because I'm representing kind of schools, Ofsted won't mention RE because if it is the difference between a voluntary aided school, for instance, they won't look at Ofsted and look at their subjects in those deep dives. So it's important to note that a lot of schools will not have their provision kind of looked at because of the nature of the school that it is, and if it is a Church of England school as well, they will only inspect through SIAMs.
And that's why I've included the Diocese of Lichfield outcomes as well, because I know they wouldn't be included in the Ofsted, but thank you for clarifying that. That's very clear. So you can see there's been a lot going on. It's been a very busy few months, even though it doesn't feel that long since last June. And I will take any questions or challenges and hope that I can perhaps even make this even more clear to you in future.
Thank you, Mary. I always love reading Mary's reports because there is always so much information in there. And I'm absolutely convinced that unlike the rest of us, she has 28 hours in a day because the amount of work that I see her doing is actually quite phenomenal. And yes, I mean, we go into schools quite regularly at different times. So it's really good for me when I go into a school to hear all of the positive things the schools actually have to say about Mary's visits as well, which I think it's really good to hear and get that feedback from them as well. Just one point on Interfaith Week. Some of you may be aware that the organisation that started the whole Interfaith Week process sadly shut down, I think, last year. They lost their funding. But it's really good to see that across the country, people are still trying to keep that activity and that week alive. And the teachers in particular in schools that I've been working with are absolutely hell-bent on making sure that Interfaith Week as an annual event still takes place, which is brilliant as well. So thank you very much, Mary, as always. Any other questions, queries, points from the floor?
There will be a full report on HIFSA's work in schools in the February agenda. One of our members here, Sean Miles, he's putting together a report, and he's putting together hopefully some pupils' response to HIFSA having been into his school. So I thought, rather than me say or HIFSA say, it's better from the mouths of the children, isn't it, or from the head teacher. So we look forward to that report in February.
Thank you, Mary. Anything from anybody else? And if not, I shall move on. And it's still with you, Mary. NASACRE update.
Now, Michael usually does a bit of a NASACRE update, but I think all of us have access now, am I right, Joe, to the information that comes from NASACRE. There is going to be a conference next year, so if anybody wants to attend that conference, make sure that you have the dates. I'll send them to Joe if you want to go. That's fine, and SACRE will pay for the conference delegate fee. Also, in your papers on page 28, there is advice for SACREs about something called the local government reorganisation. Now, I don't know if you are aware about the local government reorganisation, so I don't know whether one of our councillors wants to say anything about this, or whether you know anything about it, or anything more than we know. No. Okay. So, Michael?
From what I understand, there is a proposal that Stafford should be divided in two, and this will have huge implications for all sorts of agencies within the local authority, and particularly for this SACRE. And it's not clear how this is going to be worked out and what sort of statutory power it's going to have, what the process is going to be, but that is what is being talked about, as I understand it. I don't know if the councillors can comment further.
Other than it's probably been predetermined how the county is going to be split anyway. I mean, it's only our proposal. There's plenty of other proposals that have gone in, but I think it's just a tick-boxing exercise, really. The Labour government already know how they're going to split the county up, but we'll have to wait and see.
So on page 28, it gives you an outline that what could occur if we were to change. And if it did occur, it would be from 2028, I think, reading between the lines. And if it did happen, then it might be that our agreed syllabus might, well, but in 2028, we're going to have a new one anyway. And it might be that we are joined with Stoke, with their SACRE, we don't know. But also the implications of the curriculum review that might be that we will no longer need an agreed syllabus in 2028 because there's going to be a national syllabus. So things are up in the air. So what I'm going to do is I'll keep this on the agendas for the following meetings. And even if I say that we have no more information, at least we know that something might be occurring. Is that all right with everybody?
I think that's a really good idea, actually, because whilst it may not be happening until 2028, there will still be things happening towards that process, that certainly you may be able to feed back to us, and I know I would find that really useful.
Yeah, it is all up in the air at the moment. We don't know exactly what's happening because, like I say, everything's being kept away from us at the moment. They don't even know which way things are going to be split or where we will be, either Stoke, Burton, Tamworth, whatever, I don't know. So this is a long process and it's just being chucked on us. We're not happy about it, but, you know, we just, as my colleague says, we just going through the motions at the moment, what the government want. But we have put our own ideas in, but we'll just wait and see what they've decided. Thank you.
Thank you. Michael?
I was just going to say, Chair, that we can expect some advice from NASACRE while this process is going forward. They now have their executive officer. They're in a position to do quite a lot more resourcing than they used to be able to. And they will be keeping an eye on things and coordinating responses and information across the country.
Thank you, Michael. I'm sure we'll get any updates through Joe as well from NASACRE in that case. Thank you very much. Mary?
So the next item is the update on safeguarding, and you can see from page 29 to page 56, 55, 56, that we have our updated safeguarding policy. And in order to be part of the local authority and a corporate body, we have to have a safeguarding policy, even though children don't necessarily come to these meetings. But because HIFSA and we visit schools regularly, we have to, and we visit schools on behalf of SACRE. So we have to have a safeguarding policy. We did this last year, and everybody said thank you. So what I have done this year is I've updated all of the links with regard to the safeguarding policy, because quite a few change. I've looked at the local authority safeguarding policy. I've taken out the parts which are relevant to us, and I've left out the parts which were not so relevant. So really, it's for you to say whether you agree with this updated policy. As I've said, it's the links that have been updated. We can't change what safeguarding means. We can't change the law with regard to safeguarding. It's just giving it to you with information. But to reassure you, I am also safeguarding link for the benefits, and so is Linda. We've been on safeguarding conferences together, coincidentally, so we are pretty much up to date. We'd like to think we are. So I want to reassure you that I've not just done this as I think it might be right, and I also train school governors, trustees, and members on safeguarding as well, but on strategic safeguarding. So I would like to just reassure you that I feel pretty much up to date. I have an update every Monday morning on safeguarding, and if I think there was anything that I needed to add to our policy, I would bring it to your attention as soon as possible. So I would just like to see if there are any questions or anything anybody wants to add.
As you can see, as with everything that Mary produces, it's quite a hefty, lots of information in there and everything that needs to be covered. If we have any comments, or are we happy to accept this document as produced by Mary? Happy to accept it? Lovely, thank you very much. The other thing I was going to suggest, but Mary might kick me under the table, was if we want to see, have a short safeguarding presentation from Mary ourselves, that might be something that people might find quite useful at some point as well. So maybe that's something that we could have a think about putting onto the agenda, yeah? Brilliant, thank you. SACRE annual report. Ooh. That's you as well, Mary.
So each year we have to produce a report as this body of SACRE, and all it does is it takes all the information from all of the meetings we've had over the previous year, puts it into one report, then I put all that together and produce it for you. This is a draft report. Then that report, once you say it's okay, goes off to the national body of SACREs called NASACRE. Then they, in turn, pass it on to the DFE. So it's twofold, if you like. The information that I have provided for you, it is once again another hefty document, but it includes all of the aspects that we have been covering, as I said, over the year. And I'm particularly glad to read the chair's forward to the report, because I think Michael is very good at giving a summary of the essence of our meetings and the nature of why we are here and what it is we actually address through our SACREs. So I'd like to record our thanks to Michael, because possibly this might be the last time you write this forward, and it'll be HIFSA next time. So thank you, Michael. Now, as you can see, there's a summary of the work. There's about standards and quality of religious education provision. There's all the information about last year's data with regard to 0 hours schools and so on. And you can see that I actually do name schools in this document. All of the schools, as a result, whenever you say this is an okay document, they all receive this through the electronic e-bag, which head teachers receive, and also the unions receive it as well. And sometimes I have to go to a committee and I have to deliver it. It just depends, it just depends what happens as a result of this being published. The questions I'm always asked are, why is it that RE in Staffordshire at GCSE is below the national average? And, all I can say is we try our best. Not a lot of schools realise RE is part and parcel of what must be taught, and trying to convince them that they have to do it is very difficult at times. We try and focus on a number of schools. So this year I'm focusing on one high school in particular, because I don't have an awful lot of time within the auspices of my role. And what has happened there is because I have joined this academy as a member, and I've already speaking to them about their RE. And this is a school that I feel has low aspirations for its pupils, and it is in an area where there should be very high aspirations for its pupils. So I'm trying to convince this school that they are mediocrity at the moment in all subjects, and they need to aspire higher because the essence is there. I'm not going to name the school, but hopefully I will be able to when we get the results, the RE results in 2 years' time, because I've only just commenced. So I have had no impact on the 2025 RE. I've only just been authorised to carry out that role. So my role there has been to review the whole school, absolutely just review every area of it, and put to the trustees a development plan to actually make the school fantastic. So I'm behind the head, she's behind it, and we're going to go for it. So I thought I'd just try it out to see if it works, just one school, trying to, raise their expectations. I mean, no school sets out with low expectations. I know that. But sometimes we get complacent in what we offer. So within the report, there's lots and lots of information about the membership, our SACRE meetings. But there is one thing I have omitted, actually, and I think I need to add it because I've just realised it. I need to add that we have been reviewing our terms of reference. And when I read it through just before I came, I thought, I haven't mentioned that, yet we started it in the last meeting. So with your permission, I will add that, if that's okay. And what we normally say is that from 10 days from now, if you have anything additional that wants to be added, you send it to Joe. And within 10 days, if I receive no more information or comments, but I will change it according to what you require, then that will then be sent to NASACRE. It will be sent to Tim Moss, and he will send it on to all of the other associates that need to know about it. Are there any questions about the annual report?
Are there any repercussions for schools if they're not teaching religious education?
Well, the repercussions would be through Ofsted, and the repercussions would be from me visiting them. So I would look at these schools and then I would email them to say, are you aware that we are able to help you? Are you aware that we're able to support you? So the first thing we do is offer support. The second thing we would do is, if things were absolutely dire, we would write a formal letter from SACRE to say we had noticed that their exam results were dipping, or they were not teaching RE whatsoever. So it would come from us, the body, yes.
And if Mary sends anybody a letter, they will act. Brilliant. So you need to hear within the next 10 days if there's anything else that we need to add in there that we may have omitted, that you feel should be in there. And as Mary said, if we send that to Jo, and then Mary can make sure that is in there. But again, well done, Mary. I'm sure this does give you sleepless nights. And we will move on to National GCSE Data.
So currently, I do not have Staffordshire GCSE data results because they come out a little bit later. But I do have the general national update, which I think is useful for us because that gives us a foundation for when we do actually have our Staffordshire results, we can make comparisons. And in this document on page 90, I've tried to give you some indicator of where we are with regard to other subjects within humanities, such as history and geography, and the grading that pupils are, students, they like to call students, don't they, in high school, that students are receiving. So the very first thing on page 90, it shows that religious studies, because at high school they call it RS, not RE, just a change in terminology. RS shows stronger outcomes than history and geography, which is always good to hear. And gender differences, and this is the same, I know, in Staffordshire, the girls significantly outperform the boys in religious education, but we know in other subjects that might not be so. Entries currently are stable, which is good to hear, for the national entries, around 240,000 annually. So that shows some resilience within the approach to putting children in for the religious studies examinations. So that remains stable. And as I've said, we show stronger outcomes than geography and history at the grade 4 and above, which is good news. And we would hope ours would show a similar picture in Staffordshire. And then the same with grade 7 and above, and that's, you know, very high, because 7, 8, 9, those are very high results. We're in the national picture, we are doing quite well as well. Executive summary on the bottom of page 90 is what I will be looking at when we make some comparisons with regard to our own Staffordshire results. And then on page 91, there are going to be key questions for schools. So those key questions that you see there, they will be transferred over to something called the Governor Information Packs, so that those governors who are responsible and accountable for the teaching of RE, they don't teach it, but they have to check the school teaches it, that they could ask those questions, and those would come up in their governor minutes as legitimate challenges, which is what external verifiers want to see. They want to see that people who are not actually involved in the teaching actually know they have to ask questions about the accountability. So what they're doing there through those questions, they're holding the school to account, which is the second core function of members, trustees and governors. So they're holding the head teachers to account, the head teachers hold the teachers to account. So we look forward to the Staffordshire results. Last year they didn't come out until June for the year previous because there was something amiss. So I will now start badgering Tim Moss, say I'm looking forward to the results perhaps a little bit earlier this year and see what happens. I found the way is to just keep emailing him and then he sends them when he can.
Thank you, Mary. Yeah, look forward to the Staffordshire results, although the national ones look pretty good, which is always good to see. I do have a general question, though, around Staffordshire and the teaching of RE. Do we know how many qualified RE teachers are actually working in our Staffordshire schools? Because it's one of the things that I find when I'm going into schools across the country, that RE is actually being taught by people who are not qualified RE teachers. And we do seem to still have quite a shortage of qualified RE teachers across the country, I think.
There are very few, I hate to say it, very few. If it is advertised, it is usually advertised as a humanities role, and RE is tagged on with history and geography. I'm talking about high schools. So very few in high schools, but those who do and have the qualification do well. Also, the government has stopped the bursaries, encouraging people to take on RE at a postgraduate level or teaching level. So before there was a bursary of £10,000 to encourage them to do so. Those have stopped. It's a bit short-sighted. Within primary schools, there are even fewer teachers with any qualification in RE other than perhaps an O-level, as it used to be called, or a GCSE or an A-level. And we find that it is sometimes support staff called HLTAs, higher level teaching assistants, that actually teach religious education so the teacher can go out of the classroom and complete something called PPA, Planning, Preparation and Assessment Time. But where we have HLTAs that are very concerned and worried, I usually receive an email to say, please, could I go in and give them some training? I show them resources. The good thing about the agreed syllabus is that there is planning in there for each of the terms. And if somebody wasn't very au fait with religious education and the teaching of it, if they just followed the skeleton plan, they would actually be delivering a effective level of RE, but it would not be exceptional. We do have something called the Oak Academy, which is a government, well, I don't know what to say, I can't say government run, but government endorsed resource base online, which is improving. I'm going to say that there are improvements this year in its RE application. So where I do have a HLTA or a support member of staff who is not very good and admits it, because sometimes it's lack of awareness as well about the unknown unknowns, I can refer them to that. I can refer them to our syllabus, and then also for a select number of schools, I'm able to give them free access to something called the National Association of Teachers for Religious Education. I can give them free access to all of the planning resources, but I can't do that for every school in Staffordshire because I think they'd soon catch on. So I am allowed for some, and you pay, that SACRE pays a subscription to NATRE to allow us to do that as long as we don't overuse it. And that's been very useful for schools as well. I run online courses as well, and next Thursday I'm running a NATRE course with Sarah Dennis over at one of the other schools, the other south of the county, Lichfield Way, and we're producing a a course for staff on updates to do with religious education. That's in answer to your question, if so.
No, that's really useful to hear as well, Mary. Thank you.
Question.
Any other questions? Yep. Thank you.
Yeah, I just wonder if RE does become a national curriculum subject, whether that would change, and maybe there will be more qualified teachers for specifically for RE. And then I just wanted to ask, which governor information pack will the information be in? Will the questions be in? Will it be the spring or the summer?
It will be in the spring version, which comes out in January, and I have a meeting on Friday because I used to write it all, but now I've trained somebody to write it, and I have a meeting with him on Friday for us to decide what goes in the pack, and then he writes it and I oversee it. But I always write the RE thing aspect. I always write the SACRE part because he can't, because he doesn't have that knowledge. So it will be in the January one.
I've been doing some work with a university in the north. I won't mention the university for the last couple of years. And I was there earlier on this year doing a session with about 20 or 25 postgraduate students who were all training to be RE teachers. And that was really, really positive to see. And I think in last year's cohort, there were probably about 25 as well. So yes, like you say, you know, things may change depending on what happens down the line. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is the budget.
Good news. The budget has been spent because we've had years where we've not been able to access the budget because Trust had control over it. And by the time we got hold of it, it was the end of the financial year, and they said, oh, you can't carry any money forward. Remember that year very well indeed. So I have asked for full control of the budget, and because they're a bit short of staff, they have said yes. So what that means is every workshop now is accounted for. Every workshop has and if those of you in schools, you'll know what I mean, has a purchase order number. So there's a full trail. And the purchase order number, then you send an invoice and it has to match the purchase order number and the account and the amount. So the good news is, when I wrote this, we had about, I think it was £2,000 left. What we've done now is we've got all of the workshops in the diary up to the end of February, March. So all those are accounted for, all the EDIs are accounted for, and the subscription to NATRE, they emailed me 2 days ago to say that's £395, so that's been taken into account as well. I work with the accountant at SCC, Stafford County Council, called Claire Oswald, and we email each other, and I say, I think we have this much left, am I right? Which is, you're spot on. So I am keeping a very close eye on it, and by the end of the year, there might be £10 left, instead of like £1,000 that we never spent because we never knew where we were with it. So we're spot on. We've got about 7 or 8, 6, something around that, workshops sorted before the end of March, and we're already starting the list. We cross fingers, SEC give us a budget, but we've already starting the list for the summer term. So we're well planned and well ahead. So thank you, everybody. As you can see, it says we have £2,000 left or so, but I'm just telling you, taking into account all the purchase order numbers, we don't. We have about £10 left now, which is good news, actually. Yes.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Mary. Just a little request from myself, Joe. I initially read that as £2,185,000 left in the budget. Do you think we can just do that a little bit larger in future? Because I was kind of thinking, hey, where on earth is that extra zero going?
I like it.
I think we all would, but unfortunately, it's definitely not true. So thank you very much. And applications for variations of practice. That is you? Oh, is that the development plan? Okay. Ah, sorry, yes, development plan. Apologies, I keep skipping. That's-
So the development plan is what we aim to do as a SACRE over the next year or so. But since the curriculum review has come out, I need to change it because I need to put in now the curriculum assessment review implications for our SACRE. I need to also put in about the local authority possibility of the changes. I need to put that in. So I have to apologise and say to you it's out of date, but when we wrote it, it was in date. But everything's happened since. And you would never believe that within 3 weeks, 4 weeks, things can, well, in the education world, things change overnight, don't they? And this is an indicator of how fast things are changing in the world of education. So you can see from the development plan there, we want new members to become familiar with roles and responsibilities. So I am aware we have 2 new members today, and I don't know whether you're overwhelmed by the information, whether you're amazed at the information, or whether you want to receive more information. I think we had 1 new member last time, and she said she was completely overwhelmed. It was just too much information. But we only have 3 meetings a year, and we've got to fit it all in. So, new members, if there's anything you wish to know, if there's any training that you want, we can fit it in within the auspice of this meeting. Hopefully you are aware of all of the work that we are doing through the annual report. So it's quite a good meeting actually to start because you've got a foundation of all of the work that we have done before. You can see that we're going to scrutinise the GCSE and A-level results, and we do that every year. Then we have support for the agreed syllabus. So the work that HIFSA does and the work that I do is actually in accord with the agreed syllabus. So when I train on EDI, equality, diversity and inclusion, I say to schools, if they are carrying out what is written in this agreed syllabus, they are complying with the national regulations for EDI, as long as it's in conjunction with their personal social health education, etc. Then we've utilised the Cullen and St. Gabriel grant, which was phenomenal to receive such a wonderful grant. So we have done all that. Understanding of equality, equity and diversity, that's still ongoing. Development of websites, we still carry on with that. So you update where necessary, the SACRE one. And I've put the links in there for you as well, for you to see the links to the SACRE website. And I update the Entrust website by sending it to a clerk and they update it. Engagement with RE hubs and stakeholders. Well, HIFSA is on one of those RE hubs for a recognised speaker. And I engage with the RE hub leaders and stakeholders through conferences or online meetings. And the good news is that in January, HIFSA and I are going to the NATRE conference, National Association of Teachers Religious Education, to share the work of RE. And we're not going as delegates, we're going as exhibitors. Now, I can only say thank you to HIFSA for this because she runs her own RE company. So what's going to happen, aren't you? Do you want to explain?
So I've actually bought an exhibition space through my RE work as RE Engage. And I've invited Mary to come along as well so that we can talk about more widely the work that is being done in Staffordshire as part of RE. So we're both very much looking forward to doing that. And that's going to be on the 30th of January.
That is, yes.
Yeah, that's brilliant. So there's going to be some updates on here, which you will then, hopefully we can see the next copy in the minutes. We'll get sent those for the papers for the next meeting. Any other questions or points or comments for Mary on the development plan? Okay, I'll try and get the right point in the agenda now. Applications for variations of practice, Mary.
Well, I'm going to ask if our wonderful ex-chair wants to explain this item, because you always explain it so well. Would you be all right on that, Michael?
This is one of the curiosities of the legislation. It relates to collective worship. And according to law, every school is required to provide a daily act of collective worship for all pupils. And this is a notorious area of concern for head teachers, for governors and so on, and for members of the community as well, because it's very often not complied with, and how to comply with is also quite problematic. There is a kind of guideline as to the content of collective worship. The act of worship over a given period of time must be mainly or broadly of a Christian character. And that is the sort of guidance that's given, and how you meet that guidance can vary considerably, and it doesn't have to be a whole school meeting every time. But there is supposed to be some kind of spiritual input for pupils to engage with every day, which doesn't have to compel them to take part in an act of worship as such. They mustn't be required to worship, if I can put it like that, in any way, form or shape. However, the content of the material that is offered for reflection and for engagement with is supposed to be at least 51% of a broadly or mainly Christian character. Now, some schools will find that particularly difficult if they contain considerable numbers of people from an alternative faith tradition, or, if I can put it like this, from a very heavily secular tradition. And therefore, within the legislation, there is provision for a school through its governors or the head teacher or via parents' request to approach the SACRE, yourselves, to ask if the school may be allowed a variation in practice for their collective worship. And this variation in practice does not mean that they can do without collective worship. It means they have to provide, in a serious and considered way, alternative collective worship to that which is required to be wholly or mainly of a broadly Christian character. This SACRE is able to consider such requests if they come to it. And I'm able to say that we've hardly ever had a request, and we do not have a request to consider this afternoon. But if a school were to approach the SACRE, we would have to consider it and consider, first of all, what provisions they are making for an alternative way of presenting collective worship, and then secondly, if we wish to agree to it, and how we should monitor it or otherwise oversee it. So there's a considerable area of responsibility for SACRE here, should the event arise, but it hasn't arisen yet.
Michael, do you remember whether we've had many over the years?
I think there was one case a long time ago, and we considered it, but I think it fizzled out. For some reason, it didn't get carried through, partly because there may have been some misunderstanding of what was going to be allowed as an alternative provision, what the alternative options were. And when people discover that they've got to provide, say, alternative collective worship of a Sikh tradition, how are they going to resource that on a daily basis? Things begin to get a little bit less enthusiastic, shall I say. But I can tell you that there are places in London, for instance, some of the boroughs of London which are very diverse, where they have this item on their agenda every time the SACRE meets, and there are several schools that need to be considered and kept up to date. So this is not just a sort of dead letter of the law, but it's not applying in Staffordshire at the moment.
Thank you, Michael. One of my fondest memories from 50 plus years ago was my primary school, full school assemblies every single morning, which used to start with a hymn and ended with a Lord's Prayer, which I'm really pleased to say, 50 plus years on, I can still recite.
Which version?
I think it's the original, the old version, the Old English version. Yes. Thank you, Michael.
And just to point out that within all schools, collective worship and praying is invitational. Nobody is made to pray. Nobody's made. It's not like this. All of you now, hands together, eyes closed. It's not like that anymore. I've not long retired as an inspector, and I know that many schools say, if you wish now to think about this, if you can put your hands here, you could just close your eyes, or you can just think of something very special and reflect on what I have said. I'm going to say some words as the leader, but you can say your own words. Or we invite the word is invitational, or we invite the children to say some special words. And sometimes they stand up and say, what to say about my granny who was ill, and that's fine. And some people don't want to say anything. But that can be a very spiritual aspect of any act of worship or assembly, and I have witnessed many of especially special needs children who realise they can stand up, they are equal within that hall, and speak, and sometimes speak for the very first time in their lives. I've had that happen to me. A child stand up and everybody looking, thinking, why is that child standing up? And the Ofsted inspector is at the back of the hall. And the child stands up and everybody says, get her to sit down, Mary, get her to sit down. And I say, no, all right, what would you like to say? Because you can't say sit down, you don't normally say a word. And they say, even if this one child only said, Amen. She said one word, and the whole of the hall I was in, the children started crying. And the inspector hadn't got a clue why. All these people were crying because I had to explain to him, this is the first word this child has ever spoken in school. And that came because of the atmosphere and the invitational nature of it. I run a choir on Thursday night, and my ex-pupils from 25 years ago come back. And they say to me, the most important aspect of school with you, Mary, was assembly or worship, because we felt valued and it made us feel happy inside, which is marvellous, isn't it? After 25 years, they still feel it, which is good news. So it can have a massive impact on pupils.
And you've just made me cry.
Did it make you cry?
I did. But moving on very nicely into reflections.
Yes. So, this is a little opportunity for you to think about the meeting today, and for Joe to perhaps record. Is there anything today that you have learned? Is there anything today that you perhaps, we call it your mindset, has it grown in any way? Some people have a mindset that is quite static and never expands, but is there anything today that perhaps has made you think more carefully about things, or has resonated with you as a person? Or is there anything we're doing, you think, in SACRE that's having an impact on the students here in Staffordshire? Because after all, we have a large local authority with over 500 schools. We are reaching thousands of them through our workshops. But I just wanted to know if any of you had any thoughts or feelings about today's meeting that's helped you in any way to understand a little bit more fully about RE and so on in our schools. So it's over to you.
Absolutely no pressure at all. No pressure. But I shall sit and wait for a few of the little red lights to go up if you would like to say anything.
Well, obviously, this is my first meeting, and if you didn't catch my name, it's Andrew, and I'm a Christian, and I was an RE coordinator, and I often got the job of doing assemblies every day because, Anne will do it. But I just wanted to say how welcome I've felt, and I can appreciate what work you've been doing, Mary. and congratulate HIFSA, and I've heard about all your work, even though I've not been part of this group. So I've a lot to take in, but I've been taking it in, and I'm just very pleased to be with you all and hope that I can contribute in the future. So thank you.
Thank you, Anne, and certainly look forward to seeing you at future meetings and hearing your thoughts.
So I'm Jennifer Arnott, and I am currently the Head of Humanities and Science at a Staffordshire school. And what has been heartening for me is the fact that the things that I'm living and breathing within the local community that I work within are actually reflected in the SACRE, and everything that I've read, everything that I've written is actually is actually being pictured and living and breathing within, obviously, the diocese and the school that I currently work within, but also the challenges nationally have also been reflected and is building into this national picture. What I would hope and I would love to see is for the work that happens in Staffordshire to lead and drive the national curriculum, because we have some very, very good and very strong practice in our local schools with it, and to be able to drive that national curriculum picture to model on what we are doing in our local area.
Thank you for that, and yeah, absolutely agree with you. When it comes to the work of the SACRE and all the work that Mary has put into it as well, I would say we are very much a leading light when it comes to SACREs across the country.
And our agreed syllabus, with its 3 elements, instead of learning about religion or learning from it, we have the explore, engage, reflect, and a lot of SACREs are only just coming into that, and yet we were talking about that from 2016. And when we go to our national conferences, NATRE, I go to something called ARIAC, which is just another RE conference, and we go to the NASACRE ones. When we speak up, we just talk normally about the things we do, but actually people are like, wow, that's really good, didn't know you did that. And to us, it's just like bread and butter, day by day, trying to reflect what schools need. So, that's really kind of you to say that. Thank you.
Anything else from anybody?
Well, let's hope we don't have LGR and Mary's good work and your good work doesn't get interrupted.
Amen to that. Okay, if there are no other reflections from anybody, I'm going to hand over to Jo to look at dates for the next meeting.
Thank you. Yes, it's just to say the date of the next meeting is the 4th of February. Same time, same place. And I am looking and working on the dates for 26 to 27. So we haven't actually got a date after the 4th of February yet, but they are 3 times a year. It will be June, it will be November, but they will be communicated in due course. Probably at the next meeting, I'll be able to give you the other 2 dates for the year. Thank you.
Thank you, Jo. I think if you guys had to write a report about me today, you'd probably write something like, there is room for improvement. So thank you for bearing with me at my first meeting as chair. And I very much look forward to working with all of you moving forward. And is it too early to say, have a wonderful Christmas? I'm not going to see you before Christmas, so have an absolutely wonderful Christmas, everybody. It is, yes. Well, we've had Halloween, so I suppose it's okay to say. Thank you very much. And so we shall close the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.